sensational news, an exclusive insight following Putin's meeting with Whitkoff at the Kremlin. Urgently, Putin is ready for a truce. There are details of the deal. The first reaction from Donald Trump, Ushakov and Dmitriev have revealed sensational details. A very useful and constructive conversation took place about the Ukrainian crisis. And the second topic is the prospect of possible developments. Strategic cooperation between the US and Russia. We will discuss all of this hot off the press with the well-known journalist Dmytro Gordon. Right now.
Hello, Dasha, and greetings to all our esteemed viewers.
The latest news. Kirill Dmitriev, thank you for all your kind wishes for a successful visit. In Moscow, the dialogue will be marked by the American and Russian flags. Here is what Kirill Dmitriev wrote after the meeting. Between Whitkoff and Dmitriev, as I understand it, what does this indicate, Dmitry Ilyich?
It could indicate something. It could. I still can't say. I want to hear official statements. Official ones. It could indicate that Putin has surrendered. It could indicate that. Or it might not indicate that at all. Why should we try to read tea leaves? Just because Dmitriev wrote something, so what if he did? We need to see a statement from Trump. And we need to see a possible statement from Putin, and of course, we need to see a statement from Volodymyr Zelensky. Because I want to remind you, on the eve of Putin's talks with Whitkoff, Putin spoke with the president of Ukraine, Zelensky. And this is actually a very important point. It means they coordinated a unified position for Whitkoff's negotiations with Putin.
The Kremlin summed up the results of the meeting between Putin and Whitkoff, according to the Kremlin. The conversation that took place was constructive. At the meeting, Putin and Whitkoff discussed the Ukrainian crisis. This is, of course, about Russia. Putin conveyed certain signals to the US regarding the Ukrainian issue, and corresponding signals were also received from President Trump. They also discussed prospects for developing strategic cooperation between the US and Russia. End of quote. Dmytro Ilyich.
Well, Trump is luring him his money. He's tempting him. He keeps tempting and tempting him. It's clear, and he's doing the right thing. He's telling him, I'll put it simply, he's telling him, you're an idiot. Why are you fighting? Why are you so hung up on Ukraine? Look, we've got a huge amount of work here. We can make money together, so much that we won't even have time to count it. Let's make money. Are you stupid or what? Why are you being so stubborn about Ukraine like a sheep? Just let it go. Let it go. You've already conquered some territory. Take a break. Let it go. Let's make some money. That's what Trump is telling him. But Putin says, I still need to conquer 4 more regions. They're written into our constitution. He says, come on, don't take me for a fool. What constitution? Just forget about it. That's the kind of conversation they're having, in plain street language, like a showdown in the 1990s. But of course, with a certain level of decorum. Delegations arrive, they exchange their authorities, what they're authorized to say, and so on. But in reality, the conversation is simple. Dasha, several people who know Trump well have told me the same thing. Trump is a businessman. He genuinely doesn't understand and doesn't want to understand how in the 21st century, when such scientific and technological progress has swept through advanced countries, when artificial intelligence will soon be cleaning the streets, so to speak, instead of janitors, right? How is it possible in the 21st century to just stupidly kill people instead of making money together? Come on, people are already making money out of thin air. Well, what is cryptocurrency? You just lie on your couch, watch the rates, and press the right buttons. I mean, really, it's out of thin air. What else is it from? I personally know a quite significant number of different people who actually became incredibly wealthy billionaires from trading crypto. These specific billionaires in the world of crypto don't really do anything productive at all. They don't invent any new achievements, they don't go out and chop wood, and they certainly don't spend time sawing heavy logs manually. It is truly remarkable how they accumulate such vast fortunes without performing any traditional forms of labor or creating tangible goods for society. They do nothing. They just use their brains and think. They lie on the couch, think, and the money comes rolling in. That's why Trump doesn't get it. How is that possible? What kind of heavenly king's lead is this? Why did you get involved in that? Well, you've already conquered a part. Come on, back off already, idiot. How much longer can you go on? How many more years are you going to keep fighting while the whole world is thinking, how did they make their money? You're getting in our way now. So we're watching and waiting for official statements.
Everyone says that the key problem with Putin, or rather with Trump, is that Trump thinks like a businessman, but he doesn't understand how dictators think. He's trying to solve the issue with money, but Putin isn't interested in money because he's already the richest person on earth.
Dasha, let's not make Trump out to be a fool.
He handles things just fine on his own, right, Dmitry Ilyich?
No, I don't agree, dear Dasha. Let me try to prove it to you.
All right.
Trump became president of the United States for a second time. A fool wouldn't become president of the US even once. That's one. Second, he became president a second time, despite having thousands of criminal cases against him. In other words, he's quite a heavyweight. He's nothing like the way many people try to portray him. Next, he doesn't misunderstand dictators. He understands them perfectly well. Moreover, he even envies dictators in many ways, because in their countries, they can do things that he can't do in his own. He uses preferences and sanctions very effectively. Before Trump, I can't really recall a single US president. Honestly, I can't recall anyone who could say, if you work against us, you'll get tariffs. If they didn't get the message, give them tariffs. He acts quickly and decisively, and everyone is afraid of tariffs. Everyone is scared. Damn, it's more trouble than it's worth to argue with him. People think about how to butter him up, how to say something nice. Wow, he put everyone in their place. Good for him. Good for him. Now look, do you think he can't handle dictators? Yes, really. With the power of the United States, economic, financial, military, he can handle anyone. I'm sure of it. The moment has come when either America shows its power and strength, or there's no more America on the geopolitical map of the world. Because let me add, Trump is always thinking about China. And China is watching to see how it all ends. How will it all end with Russia? If Putin gets away with it, God forbid, the Chinese will get cocky. If Trump gets away with it, the Chinese will behave themselves. That's what geopolitics is all about. As Mikhail Sergeyevich once said, that's where the dog is buried.
Dmitry Ilyich, what about Whitkoff's visit to Moscow? Trump is demanding that Putin stop the war, a ceasefire in the air, and now Putin is trying to negotiate all the concessions. What was the purpose of this 3-hour meeting in the Kremlin between Putin and Whitkoff, and what should we expect?
Trump is not demanding from Putin a ceasefire in the air. No, Trump is demanding a stop to the war. A full ceasefire. The idea of an air ceasefire is just something they're starting to make up now. Well, right now, Putin will throw Trump a bone with this air ceasefire. Trump is speaking clearly. Stop the killing. Stop the war. Establish a ceasefire and then peace. Enough killing people. He is speaking clearly and unambiguously. What does an air ceasefire have to do with it? He definitely brought these demands to the Kremlin. I want to remind you that the meeting with Whitkoff was initiated by the Russian side. This was Russia's request. It was, send us Whitkoff. Yes, they could do that. Putin's approach is clear. I'll drag things out with minor concessions, trying to shut Trump up so he can say, yes, we've achieved this as well. At first, they try to shut Trump up with prisoner exchanges. Shut his mouth. Are exchanges even important? Of prisoners, the wounded, and the dead? Of course they're important. And thank God it happened. But the main issue is the ceasefire. It's peace. In other words, the main problem is the ongoing mass killings of people and the destruction of Ukrainian infrastructure. The conversation can only be about one thing: stopping these hostile, malicious, aggressive actions. If Whitkoff can't get anything from Putin, well, what does Whitkoff have to do with it? If Trump can't get anything from Putin, a positive response to his appeal, Trump will turn on everything he can. I have no doubt about that. There will be no delays. I'll make it even tougher for him. Forget about it. Nothing will happen. The only thing is, I made a proposal, I did everything for this. We had good communication, we had good conversations, but after those talks, he started bombing again. Kiev and other cities in Ukraine. He started killing people again. He doesn't listen to the voice of reason. I made one last attempt. I told him, come on, let's end this. He didn't listen to me again. I warned him. If he doesn't listen to me, I'll impose sanctions, I'll do this, that, and the other. And I'm doing it. And the Americans will say, what a great guy, our president. 87% of Republicans, well, according to the latest poll, say that Russia is an aggressive country and support Trump's policy toward Russia. Not appeasement of the aggressor, but punishment of the aggressor. 87% of Republicans. Trump has to take that into account. He must. Any leader must consider their voters, especially Republicans. That's why he will act tough, very tough. Does Putin understands? Well, my first reaction is that he does, but on second thought, who the hell knows what he understands? It seems to me he's already lost it. Because when I look at him, listen, Dasha, when he accepts a little medal there at the factory entrance, or when he sits with Lukashenko with that blissful, vacant stare, like old ladies on a bench in some remote Russian village somewhere, all that's left is for them to start singing folk songs. I'll tell you, I doubt his sanity. I think he's completely lost his marbles already. So if he's lost it, plus if he... Did you sneeze, Dasha?
That's true, yes. I did.
Well, bless you for telling the truth. Dasha never sneezes for no reason, friends. Only when she's happy. She sneezed at the truth again. I'm telling the truth. So, plus, I don't know what his friends are telling him, what they're reporting to him. Because when he's convinced that Russia's military machine will crush Ukraine, well, who is it that's coming to him with these reports? Those generals, those thieves, those drunkards? When do generals ever tell the truth, really? I want to ask, when do they? In all countries, by the way, they're prone to exaggeration in order to curry favor. It's the same with the military machine. Here, too, we have questions about the generals' reports. I'll tell you even more, but right now I'm not talking about us. I'm talking about the Russians. It's obvious. Look, these people are sitting on massive cash flows. They're stealing huge amounts, just like in the early days of the plague. And for him, being in that position means extra millions of dollars. So when he goes to Putin, what? Is he going to report bad news? He'll say, everything's fine. We'll win some. Yeah, just give me a few more days. I'll steal a bit more. See, it's all very simple. There's no need to look for something complicated where things are simple. I actually like to start from simplicity. Everything is as straightforward as it gets. They want to keep stealing, so they're definitely telling him lies. He gets his news reported to him. He doesn't go online himself because he thinks the CIA is watching him through that little camera. So he doesn't go online and he doesn't really have any special contacts with anyone. No one would dare tell him the truth because if someone did, it would be the truth. So the guy lives in a parallel reality. That's the whole story. But the Americans are tracking everything closely, as are the British and the Europeans. So I think the guy has gone too far. I'm sure of it. I'm absolutely sure. He's gone too far, and now the moment of truth is coming. In general, I suggest everyone keep a nonstop watch on the news, and the best way to do that is through the Dmytro Gordon Telegram channel.
Two of Rosneft's largest plants, the Terezyansky and Novokuybashevsky, have halted operations after being hit by our drones. In the Special Operations Zone, railway stations, junctions, and traction substations are being put out of commission, and trains carrying tank cars are being blown up. And in Rostov, there's a fire at the Tatsinskaya station, and near Milarovo, an entire substation burned down. An entire substation. Across Russia, there's an aviation collapse. Flights are being canceled, and Moscow and St. Petersburg are paralyzed. And this is no longer just raids. This is the destruction of the entire military logistics system.
When you, Dasha, mentioned that something is burning here and there, I recall the words of a wonderful song by Alexander Ponomaryov. Fields and enemy equipment are burning in Ukraine.
God, those are truly golden words.
Mountains and fields still ablaze. The Russian ship and the Dnipro.
The best way to start our stream. Actually, I watched Zelensky's first conversation with Malik, and just recently he said that we are preparing a new special operation on Russian territory. A deep poke. At the airport, 5 hours on the plane, people are sobbing, crying, everything has come to a standstill. And aviation collapse. We're hitting the railways, the junctions. Well, tell me how wonderful this is, Dmitry Ilyich. I mean, it's just magnificent.
Keep hitting, never stop. Of course it's wonderful. Of course it's magnificent. Russia must understand and realize the full gravity of what it's done in Ukraine. And our response should not just be proportional, but even greater compared to what fascist Russia has done. With the emergence of Ukrainian ballistic missiles, our response will be much more striking. Ukrainian ballistic missiles exist. We are building up their potential. And moreover, I'll tell you this, if Putin doesn't come to his senses, or whatever it is he has up there, instead of a head, whatever he has, the Germans will undoubtedly provide Taurus missiles, which will simply obliterate everything to pieces. Everything that needs to be destroyed will be destroyed. Well, it all depends on Putin's decision today. Will he agree to what smart people are offering him, or will he keep acting tough? If he keeps acting tough, he'll lose his horrors. If he agrees, well, it's better for him.
Dmytro, now Bloomberg is starting to spread information that Putin might be ready for an air ceasefire, but all military analysts say that's not the case. He absolutely won't go for that. He'll just keep dragging Kiev out. And this meeting with Whitkoff is just another stalling tactic from Putin.
Dasha, well, let's talk about the air ceasefire. What's my opinion? For the citizens of Ukraine who are suffering from drones, glide bombs, and missiles, after all these years, is an air ceasefire good or not? Definitely yes. Definitely a plus. But again, this doesn't solve the issue. So what is Trump talking about? About a full ceasefire and the establishment of a solid, reliable mutual peace. And a ceasefire in the air will only last until the first turn. That is, Putin will continue the war, will keep seizing territories. If not by force, then by creeping advances, slowly pushing forward. And how long is this going to last? For years? And then what? You can see that he wants to keep fighting. Yes. I understand. Just yesterday, I did an interview with Ramis Yunus, and he said something very interesting. It was something I kind of understood, but he put it very clearly. The wording is always important. And today, someone sent me a map. Here's a map showing what Putin has conquered during this entire full-scale war, compared to what he already had. To be perfectly honest, I must certainly admit that Hitler would have mocked him quite derisively.
Shot himself? Which basically is what he did, right?
No, I mean, he would have laughed at Putin. He would have told him, "You're an idiot. You sacrificed over 1 million people. In your own country. We're not even talking about Ukraine. You sacrificed over 1 million people, and this is all you managed to capture? So what are you hoping for next?" That's why, of course, Putin understands that it's unlikely he'll be able to pass off what he's captured as a victory. That's why he wants to keep fighting. Besides, he understands that there's a huge threat. It's the return of Russian fools from the front. And they're unstable, people in an unstable state. These are convicts, all sorts of antisocial elements, the lumpen proletariat and so on, who got used to making big money at the front. They'll come home. Where will they go back to? To wooden barracks? That's why there are big questions. He doesn't want to end the war, but I'm sure that Trump will force him to do it. I'm sure of it. Trump has no other choice. No matter how well Trump originally felt about Putin, Trump no longer has a way out. Because if he doesn't put this bastard back in his place where he belongs, then the authority of the United States of America, the authority of Trump himself, well, will be shaken. But it's no longer about Trump. It's about the United States. That is, if you are the most important country in the world, and they are. Because the whole world keeps its money not in yuan or rubles, but in dollars, for some reason. Well, some in euros, but that has nothing to do with Putin either. If you can't prove to Americans that you're the toughest, No one will listen to you anymore, fear you, or do what you ask. Well, what if you couldn't handle Russia then? Which is in a very bad state, financially, economically, militarily, really in a very bad state. If you can't handle Russia, why should we listen to you at all? Why should we be afraid of you? You're not scary. He, Putin, didn't give in to your ultimatums. That's why for Trump, too, the moment of truth is coming. If he doesn't hit Putin hard now, things will go badly for America. That's why the American establishment won't allow Trump not to strike at Putin. So when it comes to Putin, everything is clear with him. The Americans will just squeeze him out and throw him away. I'm only interested in the question of timing. Everything is clear regarding the prospects. I'm interested in the question of timing. When will this happen? For me, the sooner it happens, the better. For me, for the Ukrainian people.
Dmitry, I have some insider information about Trump. I'll share it with you in a moment, but a bit later. What did I want to discuss with you? It's about oil.
That was well said. I'll share it with you now. You've got me intrigued. But a bit later. By the way,
That's a life hack from Dmitry Ilyich. Dmitry always says that Dasha saves the juiciest information for the end.
Dasha, sometimes it's good at the beginning too. I'll tell you that.
Yeah?
But the specific manner in which you do it is perfectly acceptable too.
Friends, write this down. These are life hacks from Dmytro Gordon.
If you can't, then just remember.
And don't forget to leave a like and write a few kind words about our duo in the comments. Ukraine will definitely win. We are the strongest nation. We have the strongest army. We will destroy Russia. Now, let's definitely get back to our topic of destroying the oil industry. So, the oil industry. Two of Rosneft's largest plants, the Novokuybishevsk and Ryazan refineries, partially suspended their operations after a drone strike back on August 2nd. So, strikes on the Ryazan and Novokuybishevsk refineries. These refinery attacks mean the destruction of half the fuel processing capacity in two key regions. One plant has been completely shut down, and the other is operating at only 48% capacity. This is now an economic operation, not a military one. What it means is that we are now striking refineries very intensively, as well as oil depots in Sochi, especially Rosneft's oil depots. This will impact tanks, aviation, and fuel stations in the enemy's rear. I think this is a very successful story.
Yes, it will affect what you mentioned. But there's another point. If you have money, you fight. If you don't have money, you don't fight. The main component of Russian money is oil. The sale of oil, the processing of oil, everything connected to oil. That's why the main blow should be dealt to Russian oil. As soon as the Russians are no longer able to receive as much money as they get from oil, their military capabilities in this situation will immediately decrease. Because notice what Trump is also doing there with oil. Right now, he's playing with the Russians. That's why strikes on oil refineries are an integral part of inflicting damage on Russia. Our task, what is our task? To mess with this fascist pseudo-country. Just to mess with them. Wherever we can, that's where we should mess with them. Blow everything up, shut things down, disrupt logistics, stop exports, and so on. Anything that is bad for them is good for us. Because our goal is to make this nasty country stop its aggression against Ukraine.
AI-95 has risen to 77,000 rubles per ton, writes Rashis. And they're crying. Gasoline reserves are at zero. And the key reasons were Ukrainian drone attacks on oil refineries, sanctions pressure, plus a surge in domestic demand. And here's the question. Can Ukraine now, together with Trump, the armed forces of Ukraine, completely paralyze troop movements through the economy and basically destroy Russia's entire oil industry?
Well, it's hard to destroy everything, but this is a component, a sequence, a chain of actions that lead to a reduction, a significant reduction in the money the Russian budget gets from oil sales. So here, first of all, there's the increase in production, the increase in oil extraction in OPEC countries. The more oil OPEC countries put on the market, the lower the price of oil will be. This is already a loss for Russia. They already have major problems with their budget. There's catastrophic underfunding. That is, it's one thing not to spend money on repairing rusty pipes, on fixing boilers, on repairing and demolishing dilapidated buildings, on elevators, on utilities. Yes, right now they're not spending on that. Everything is going to the military, to defense. But there's another point. But pensions still have to be paid, and salaries have to be paid. And now there are already delays in salary payments. Things are catastrophic in the metallurgical industry, in the coal industry, in air transportation, in Russian railways, basically in everything related to the economy. Things are really bad. And here, first, it's the reduction of oil prices through, thanks to the release of a large amount of oil onto the market. Next, there are the sanctions, which affect Russian oil production. They only have this oil in the ground. They can't extract it without Western technologies, without Western components, without everything Western. So this also needs to be taken into account. And of course, strikes on oil refineries. Absolutely. Oh, I'll tell you that with long-range missiles, we might even see strikes directly on oil wells, oil pipelines, and gas pipelines. Of course. Well, this is war. Anything goes in war. But what did they think? Nah, we understand what they were thinking. Kiev in 3 days. That's what they thought. But they didn't get that. And then what did they think would happen next? They thought they would destroy ours and we would just watch? Well, of course not. We will destroy theirs. And then we'll see what happens. This war is doomed to stop anyway. Putin won't be able to continue it. Again, it's only a matter of time, the time frame. That's the most important thing.
Dmitry Ilyich, a very important point is that Trump has now made a number of very serious statements. Well, first of all, it's what he said just yesterday, that 10%. We need to lower global oil prices by another 10%, and then Russia won't be able to wage war. Nuclear submarines, subs that are near Russia, and the fact that our Ukrainian intelligence services obtained secret schematics of a nuclear submarine. Regarding the Knyaz Pozharsky, we have detailed information about the specialized crew members and the specific structural vulnerabilities of the vessel. What do these three elements have in common? With
what I said earlier, we need to make things difficult for Russia in every possible area we can reach. From nuclear submarines to oil logistics and transportation. Wherever you can cause trouble, you should do it. This is war. I repeat, this is war. And in this war, I want to say Russia cannot win. That is out of the question. They are trying to win by military means, but they won't be able to win militarily. If the Americans become convinced that Putin isn't going to stop, well, they'll provide such weapons. I'm not even talking now about the economy, about sanctions, about everything else. Yes, no, they'll provide weapons that will wipe out Russia's entire military machine. Well, of course there's no other way out for anyone. That's it, the discussions are over. This stupid country doesn't understand words. Moreover, Russians are such that they only understand the language of force. A punch in the face to smash the nose. That's what they understand. That gets through. But just talking, persuading, that's all pointless. It does nothing for the poor. That's not how it works. Force works. America has understood this. Europe has understood this. No one needs convincing anymore. No one needs to be asked to wake up anymore. Everyone woke up long ago. Germany is now ramping up its military power at an incredible pace, I have to say. And this country is capable of a lot. Just remember the state Germany was in back in 1914 and in 1933 to 1941, both economically and militarily. What are we even talking about?
Dmitry Ilyich, this is a very important point. When I talk to Americans, they all tell me, no one is going to unanimously vote for hellish sanctions against Russia right now. All Trump can do is impose sanctions personally, on his own. Is that enough? Dmitry Ilyich, that's the main question.
He has the majority, so he'll impose them first, and then everyone will vote for them. It's a completely straightforward story. They're ready, all of them are at the starting line. Graham Blumenthal is a bipartisan initiative, actually from the Republicans, and they're saying it should be even tougher. And they made it clear, as soon as the president is ready, we'll sign it immediately. Everything has already been decided there.
Dmytro, here's an important point. Will that be enough? Is that his maximum? You said that Trump would unleash all his power on Putin. Let's break down all of Donald Trump's power for our audience right now. I'm taking pictures, tomahawks.
Tomahawks and tomoyaki. So look. First, let's start with the economy. Imposing serious sanctions against Russia, including disconnecting banks and all related measures, and imposing sanctions against those who help Russia circumvent sanctions. You're trading oil with Russia. This isn't me saying it, it's him. You're trading with Russia, oil. Are you helping them kill Ukrainians? Take the sanctions. He says it directly to the Indians, to the people of India. He says it outright. You're helping Russia bypass sanctions. You're helping kill Ukrainians. Sanctions. China, you're helping with the sanctions. From here on, everyone will be trying to survive because Dacia will be thinking, what's more important to me, keeping the profits from buying cheap Russian oil or losing the American market? Because that would cost me much more. Of course, Russia, goodbye, as the great Andrei Danilko sang, Russia, goodbye. Of course, America. But no one sides with the weak in this war. In this case, they side with the strong. That's economic influence. So sanctions against Russia, against countries that allow Russia or help Russia to circumvent sanctions. And not just token, half-hearted, or decorative sanctions, but real, concrete ones. Because we all understand there are loopholes, both in the US itself and in European countries that continue to trade with Russia. We understand this. Look at that. Second, the military component. The military aspect here is also as simple as can be. You want to fight Putin? All right then, let us show you how to fight. We'll now give Ukraine long-range missiles. Tomahawks, I don't think it will come to that, and there's no need for it. Long-range missiles. How many F-16s do they have? 30 or 50, roughly Skippy. 500 F-16s. They have a bunch of F-16s sitting in the Derzich. Now someone was saying, you're so smart, but who's going to fly them? Who will? Here's my answer. Private military companies start recruiting pilots who are retired, who have fought on F-16s. And those who haven't fought on F-16s, just those familiar with the F-16, those who served on F-16s. Private military companies funded by NATO and Europe. Recruiting 500,000 people worldwide is no problem at all with the right political decision. So there are even higher levers, higher roofs. Now, 500,000 for the F-16 is not enough. How you doing there, Putin? Still alive? Everything okay? Do you want to keep continuing the war? 2,000 F-16s, 4,000 pilots. We have enough money. So what, Europe's money against Russia's money? And the Americans will join in too. This is a matter of principle. Moving on. This is no longer just something casual. This isn't a joke. This isn't a game. This isn't flirting with the aggressor. This is a whole different story now. This is a geopolitical issue. Who is stronger and to whom others will bow. That's it.
Now, Ushakov has quickly appeared, according to the latest news. Putin's aide stated that the Kremlin chief had a useful and constructive conversation with Whitkoff. According to him, two topics were discussed: the war in Ukraine and the prospects for developing a strategic partnership between Russia and the United States. He added that Russia conveyed all its signals and also received a signal from US President Donald Trump. Ushakov declined to comment further on the talks since Donald Trump is not yet aware of their results. Those are the statements so far.
I haven't heard Trump's statement yet. Until I hear a statement from Putin, until I hear a statement from President Zelensky, I won't comment. Because for now, it's all just some kind of echo. They pass something to us, we pass something to them. Yes, we know that. Both sides have already passed things on and then nothing happened. Because Putin can send a signal. I'm not ready to stop. And this is also a signal being sent. A decision and results. Now, if from 0 hour, if starting from today, well, from tomorrow already, everything stops and a ceasefire begins, then I'll say yes, that's it. But if it's just more half measures again, then it's all for nothing, a waste for everyone.
Yes, most likely. Of course, Putin is not ready for a full ceasefire.
I don't know, Dasha. I don't know. I can't say for sure that he's not ready. I can't. Let's wait for the result. Anything's possible. If they're saying, see, there's an important phrase there, that they talked about mutual cooperation. Yes, but it's clear that they offered him something, some kind of purchase. It's obvious they offered him something where he saw big money for himself. Obviously. Now we need to keep watching what happens next.
He can't just keep advancing all this time.
Yeah, the only thing he can step on is his own ass. But what did he actually gain from this offensive during all this time? So, where are the results? It's just laughable. Look at the map of the territories captured since 2022. It's just not moving forward. He doesn't have people either. He's short on people too. Because I've been thinking about this, There are a lot of coffins coming back. There are a lot of coffins all over Russia. But let's say it doesn't quite work that way yet, because you know what Russians say? Well, Vanya wanted to make some money. Vanya did make some money. Well, he died, but that's Vanya's choice. Nobody pulled him. That's right, he did it himself. So it's not a pity. Daria. There is a second point. The huge number of armless and legless people who came from the war in Ukraine and across Russia have spread out. This is already clear. This already makes the next person who wants to go to the so-called SVO think. So I might make some money, or I might end up as a 200th, or I might end up like this as a 300. And how do you live after that? So this is already a kind of safeguard to see. But there's also a third claim. The mass return of Russians who fought in Ukraine to their homes. The Russians won't be able to shut them up. These individuals begin to converse extensively regarding this specific matter and about various other things too. They start sharing with those around them what is truly happening at the front lines of the war. In reality, this is a very powerful barrier for those who want to take the risk and go to this so-called war, this so-called special military operation. They start talking about how the commanders treat them, how they're sent to the slaughter, that this money isn't worth it. Worth such ordeals. They start telling people that, as it turns out, Ukrainians have excellent equipment. And Ukrainians are fighting, often better than they are. And the West is on Ukraine's side. And they start telling the most important thing. Now, I'm sure they say this. They're asked, bro, if you could go back to the time when you enlisted, would you do it again? Would you go? The money is big, after all. I'm sure that many, especially when drunk, say no and don't go. I'm sure of it.
Dmitry Ilyich, to sum up, residents of Donetsk are complaining about the lack of drinking water. The water supply problems have been going on for 3 years. I think they're even drinking water from puddles now. What do you say to that?
Dasha, I want to say that we need to be very clear about this. There is an aggressor, Putin and fascist Russia. And there are victims. The victims are Ukrainians. It's Ukraine. The residents of Donbass, including those who waited for Russia and called for Russia, ended up as victims as a result. Sometimes in the heat of the moment, I might say some harsh words because, I'm angry too. I'm only human, and that's understandable. Well, I get really angry, I do, right? But now I want to talk about the main point. There is an aggressor and there is a victim. The aggressor is Russia and Putin. The victims are the residents of Donbass, including, like all Ukrainians, those whom our army couldn't protect back then in 2014, those whom our state couldn't protect. They may have been mistaken, but they weren't protected. So even those who are drinking water from puddles today in Donetsk, they are victims too. And we should treat them with compassion. After all, we still intend to bring them back. They will still be part of Ukraine. That's why I would approach this issue exactly.
Please follow me. along this specific path. Military and political topics. Let's discuss them. Undoubtedly, the top topic is the meeting between Whitkoff and Putin and the consequences of that meeting. One and only, Dmytro Gordon. Dmitry Ilyich, thank you very much, and see you next week.
Thank you, Dasha. Let's hope that our next meeting...
All right, that's a teaser.
Well, already under conditions of a truce, or maybe even peace. Let's hope for that. Do I believe it? Nah. Do I hope for it? Yes. Glory to Ukraine.
Glory to the heroes, and according to your faith, so it shall be given to you.